welcome back to the Blazing for Lethal YouTube channel. The bannings of Tome of Aetherwind and Tome of Fandel absolutely gutted the Kano deck and made it go from what was going to likely be an S tier deck to a solid C tier deck or lower. It's been so bad, in fact, that I actually planned on switching to a different hero for the upcoming Battle Hardened because the deck is just so much weaker without tomes. You don't have a way to really kill reliably against anything remotely aggressive, and anything that's slow packs Oasis for Spite, and without tomes, pitch stacking is almost impossible. So it looked like the Kano deck itself was kind of dead in the water, as we couldn't reliably high roll our aggro matchups, which is very necessary, nor could we pitch stack the slow matchups. In other words, he was unplayable. So I went back to the drawing board, and after spending about a week ripping my hair out trying to find a playable build, I came across a deck that I've dubbed Unga Bunga Kano. Why is it Unga Bunga? Because we are playing 9 copies of Open the Floodgates and 6 copies of Overflow the Aetherwell. But the fun doesn't stop there. We're also running 3 energy potions, 1 clarity potion, 3 potion of deja vus, 1 wheel of arcana, and an eye of Ophidia. We are playing a deck that is built from the ground up to get the most bombastic, over-the-top combos imaginable. How over the top? Well, I was playing a game against a Florian who had 40 life when I launched my combo. My combined wildfires dealt 1 damage, and I still killed him. How? Because I spun together 3 floodgates or overflow the Aetherwells, and it just kept going and going and going until eventually I found 2 blazing aethers and I dropped him. The deck is very ridiculous. It has very weak main phase turns, but compensates by having one of the most gloriously over-the-top combo turns in any deck I've ever seen, including previous iterations of Kano. So, I'm going to go in a little more detail as to how I arrived at this build and what the deck is actually trying to do. And we are going to start here with the reds. The obvious 5 inclusions here are the combo pieces themselves. Flare is just a good damage dealer. Spindle now has a use. Prior to Unga Bunga, Spindle was actually pretty rough because the only thing you could find were potions, and we were only running 4 primarily during testing. Now, though, it's a lot better because once again we can spin into floodgates or overflows, pseudo-tomes, and 7 potions in the deck makes finding a potion pretty straightforward. Wildfire, Blazing, and Kindle, obviously absolute all-stars. But floodgates. Why are we playing Floodgate in a full rainbow? Floodgate has some very nice math involved in it. If you draw at least 1 blue from a floodgate, you are guaranteed to either have -1 resource on your combo. So effectively, the floodgate costs you 1 resource because you activated Kano, you pay your 2 for the floodgate, it gets you back 4 resources, you in essence only paid 1. If you draw a yellow, you're neutral, which means you can activate Kano again and pay for up to 2 cost cards off the top, or a 1/0 cost with nodes on the stack as well, and pay for those. Or if you draw 2 blues, you actually go up a resource, which means you could either Kano twice, or you can just Kano again and then afford nodes all the way down your line, whatever that may be. Overflow the Aetherwell is effectively the same thing in that if you flip it off the top on combo turn, it costs you 1 resource. Pay 3 to activate Kano. Overflow hits, you get 2 back. You really just paid 1 resource. In a deck like Kano, that's very, very important. Cheating on resources is excellent. While that is the case, Overflow the Aetherwell is always a -1, which means it's not incredibly good in yellow. It doesn't do good damage, and it really doesn't have a powerful enough effect to warrant running more copies of this. That's why we're stuck at just reds for that full rainbow of Overflow. Moving on to the very short yellow list. Lesson in Lava is Lesson in Lava. No need to go into that. Yellow, Open the Floodgates. The math remains the same as it is for red. It's an excellent extender because as long as you draw 1 blue, it's effectively costing you either 1 resource to add, let's say Wildfire hit for 3, 5 damage to the combo, which is incredibly strong, or it's literally just free damage. You get to activate Kano again for no cost. You can hit 2 costs off the top and still pay for the line. Extremely powerful. On to the blues, rather. You'll notice a couple of things. First off, there are no 2-cost blues in the deck except for Open the Floodgates, but as we discussed previously, doesn't really count as a 2-cost because it should only cost us 1 total resource, assuming we draw a blue. We have 33 blues in the deck. The odds of not getting blue are relatively low, enough so that I am at the 33 blue count. Now, I have considered playing 36 blues to kind of up that chance, but in order to do that, I would need to cut another card. I could cut one of the reds, that is, or yellows. Yellows, we are not cutting either of those. And in terms of reds, my choice would really be cutting an Overflow or cutting a maybe Flare or Spindle. That's a big ask. I believe that in my testing so far, I've found that the red Overflow is actually just worth having in the deck. It's good damage, and it's also a pseudo combo piece. And again, I typically draw at least 1 blue off of my Floodgates, so I found it to be well worth it. But moving on to ensuring that, we've got probably what's the most confusing thing about this deck, which is my 3 Deja Vus and a Clarity Potion. We'll start with Clarity Potion. Initially, I use this as a joke because I happen to have a cold foil in my collection, but it actually is a very, very strong card in this deck because opting 2 on our go turn is nuts. We really, really want to find an extender for our combo. That's either going to be Overflow or a Floodgate. Easy as that. Opting 2 is huge. If I find neither of those things, I put them to the bottom, or if it's a random blue, I'll keep it on top to make sure my rags flips are good. 3 Deja Vu is very important for the way this deck functions. Being able to pitch and open the Floodgates or an Overflow into my pitch zone, activating Kano, crack Deja Vu, put it on top, it helps us so much in terms of our combo potential and the insurance to keep the combo going. I think one of the strongest combos in the deck, actually, is being able to use Clarity Potion to start the combo turn and then draw into more Floodgates or Overflows, then use our Deja Vu to keep the chain going even further. Using this exact scenario of Clarity Potion, I saw a Floodgate on the top, started drawing, doing stuff. I ended up drawing into an Overflow and an Open the Floodgates. I could use my Potion of Deja Vu to extend the turn 2 more combo pieces. That's crazy. Now, even if Wildfire's dealing 2 at that point, playing 3 or even 4 spells in between Wildfire and Blazing gives you a combo that easily deals 30 damage or more. So that's why I wound up on those. 3 energy potions, pretty self-explanatory. It's energy potion. It's 2 more resources on combo, especially with the way this deck tries to extend and go 4 and even 5 spells wide. My record so far has been 9, I think, so 9 spells wide, when my Wildfire barely dealt any damage. I just kept digging and digging and digging. The deck is very good at doing it. Potions of all sorts are excellent for it. Moving on to other bricks, we've got Eye of Ophidia. I think, again, pretty self-explanatory. Why are we running out of Eye of Ophidia? We really care about hitting one of these random spells off the top if we can. Eye of Ophidia is a free way to do that. We really like it. Will of Arcana has been a very interesting card. With Potion of Deja Vu, it's ridiculous. You can get Wildfire easily to 8, 9, and sometimes even 10 damage turns depending on Kindles and Will of Arcana. But you can easily turn it from a losing scenario to Will of Arcana Wildfire for 8. You can only block a couple points. Spell Blazing, you lose the game. But, as you will have noticed, that's 1, 2, plus the 7, 9, plus 3 Kindles. We're looking at 12 misses in the deck. That's why Sonic Boom isn't in this deck list. I played it initially. When it worked, it was insane. But there's so many misses that you're inevitably going to hit it, and it just wasn't worth the slot. That's why I replaced it with Red Overflow. The rest of the blues cannot kill the combo. That's the way I looked at it. There are some cards like Red Photon Splicing that are Blue Photon Splicing that are theoretically really good. You know, it's a 1 for 2. It's good combo math, and also you can discard it for amp. But because of the way Open the Floodgates functions and Overflow, we're either getting -1 resource, neutral, or positive. So 0 cost cards are super, super important in this deck. That's why I'm running just the best of them that I could find. Trailblazing Aether is a little questionable as its effect doesn't do anything on the opponent's turn, but I've found it to be more useful than something like Twining, for example, where you can discard it to amp 1. Twining truly does nothing 95% of the time. Trailblazing Aether I've actually gotten to function more than once using a Flare into Trailblazing Aether, into go again, play a potion. Getting potions on field, super important for this deck, hence why it's there. Blue Overflow is possibly one of the strongest blues ever printed into Kano. Absolutely bonkers in conjunction with Potion of Deja Vu. Off the top, it's just a zap and it costs you 1 resource. That's really good. It's in line with Open the Floodgates. And then, of course, Gaze is always Gaze. Gaze and Flare are truly incredible blues. Flare is equal to a Lesson Line. If you blind flip it, it does actually 1 more damage than a Lesson Line. So if Wildfire deals 4, your Lesson combo deals 26 damage. Flare will actually deal 27, slightly better. And Destructive Aether Tide is simply the best zap. Period. Like in terms of just effect, not counting Overflow on combo turn, it just blows up. It threatens to blow up an arsenal. Very efficient card. They all block 3. It's good. And that's really it for the main deck. The overall game plan of the deck is turns 0, 1, 2, dig for potions, dig for potions, dig for potions. If you can get 2 or sometimes 3 potions, depending on the variety, on the field, it's almost impossible to lose a game. I mean, it was close to that with Kano before Overflow and Open the Floodgates was printed, but now it's just absolutely ridiculous how wide you can go. Like, Wildfire doesn't need to deal 3 or 4 damage anymore. If it deals 2, you can get away with it. Just Wildfire for 2 into a few extenders into Blazing, it usually gets the job done. It's actually crazy. And on your off turns, Floodgates are surprisingly good. Bad damage, but it always takes a card. Overflow's fine, it's just a zap. Typically what I'll do is I'll activate Kano, play a card off the top with Kano, then just Overflow, 3 damage, they never block it. It's fine. Lesson is always good. Your basic tempo lines are still there. Flare, or Spindle, or Lessons. Floodgate's fine. You know, it'll chip a damage, it'll take a card. Overflow's not very good, but other than that, very strong. Just also keep in mind that Will of Arcana plus Lesson or Flare lines is very much worth it on your turn, as you can sometimes threaten an easy 10 to 15 damage just from that amp alone. Very strong. And that's really it for the main board. I typically play Fyndal Spring Tunic because the games go a decent amount of time. I prefer, in this current meta, to try to make it to turn 3. You either dig for more potions, or you find, really just the Tunic and the block counter is pretty reasonable, but going a little bit further, you can chip more, you can find more potions, and just get yourself in a better spot. There are pretty few decks that I've played against that consistently hit me to lethal before the Tunic counter goes up. But if you're ever in doubt, if you go first, play Tunic. If you're going second, play Spellfire Cloak. And moving into the sideboard. Sideboard is very straightforward at the moment. It's completely dedicated to killing Enigma. Thus far, I have not really had issues with the main build into anything except Enigma and New. I don't think Assassin's fair to count because their new equipment is so aggressively tuned against Kano. There's very little we can do. You can try pitch stacking it with the Unga Bunga main build, and I've been trying that, and it's been reasonable, but that matchup has just changed dramatically, and it's really frustrating in general. So instead of trying to waste sideboard slots against her, it's gone to nearly Prism levels of bad for the moment in initial testing, but into Enigma we run Exploding Aether, Stir the Aether Winds, Aether Quickening. Waning Moon is still a playable card. Scour's okay. It depends on how heavy the ward builds go. Scour's been almost completely useless into the Rune Blades, all of them. Very few actually build up Rune Chants, and so it's not really amazing. Alluvion is only in the deck to play against Kano. The new Wizards, it's been pointless, really. The gameplay just doesn't go in such a way that Alluvion's actually going to be worth a lot. I'm either speed killing them, or I'm using Tunic maybe twice and trying to kill them that way. And to be honest with you, even Waning Moon is pretty questionable into the new Wizards. You can just win going the tempo route with mainboard Unga Bunga. You have plenty of time to just set up. You get lots of potions. You do maybe a soft pitch stack of just keeping threat density, and then you make it to a later cycle. You get 2 or 3 energy potions out, 1 or 2 deep pots, maybe clarity potion, and you just light them up. Into Enigma specifically, this is where the sideboard really is focused on. We use Exploding Aether and Stir to just break ward and chuck a couple points of damage into her. Waning Moon still does service there. Quickening is just an efficient card to play against her, especially if you can combine them with one of these two, because off of a single blue, you push 7 damage. That's good. It always blows up ward, usually puts a couple of points of damage in. You can actually very comfortably manage her board states, which is pretty surprising. That might change depending on how many auras she starts playing, and that's where Scour is particularly effective. If she plays a bunch of Spectra auras, we can just turn them to dust, deal the arcane damage, still pop ward. But it has not been a very bad matchup, which has been excellent overall. And that's the overview of the deck. This is what I've been cooking with so far. There are refinements to be made, but I wanted to put this out and explain my thought process, some of the cards, why the cards are important. Largely because the Kano community as a whole has been so down and gloomy the last 2 weeks that finding a truly playable build is something I wanted to share with everybody before we all sell out on Kano and try picking something else up. He's not completely dead. In fact, this build has been doing wonders for me. You have the danger of bricking. Again, we've got 12 misses, if you will, off the top, although potions aren't as bad. But 5 actual turn-ending bricks in Kindle and the 2 gems. But of my games, that's really only happened once or twice, and I've played quite a few. So it's not too much of a concern. You will have some games where you draw all no blocks when they really attack you, or you're drawing just the wrong cards at the wrong time, as you always do in Kano. But to be honest with you, the deck overall feels like you're playing Tome Kano, but the Tomes deal damage, which is pretty ridiculous. Our pitch stack game is not the way it was before, so that's the true downside. But into our aggro matchups, it's like playing Tome Kano, but your Tomes add to the combo damage, and that makes it kind of unfair. So that's the wrap-up. Feel free to test it out. I'll have a link in the description for the list. You can mess around with it, mess with anything you want. The sideboard is definitely the most free form at the moment, as I put the least amount of time into it. I've just been focusing on trying to make a main board playable. If you have any questions, as always, leave comments, let me know, and I'm on Discord, same name, Blazing for Lethal. I'm always around to answer questions, and I will see you next time.